The glass elevator at Morgan Technologies rose smoothly through the gleaming tower, each floor marking another step toward a moment I'd planned for 2 years. I adjusted my simple gray blazer, purchased from a department store, nothing like the designer suits surrounding me in this corporate cathedral of steel and glass. Going up, a man in an impeccable navy suit stepped in, barely glancing at me. I nodded, letting him assume I was just another low-level employee. If he only knew. My phone buzzed, another text from Marcus, my brother. "Where are you? Remember what we discussed. Stay in the back. Don't draw attention. This is my night." I didn't respond. Instead, I watched the floor numbers climb. 38, 39, 40. The top floor boardroom awaited, where Morgan Technologies would be announcing their new senior vice president of operations. My brother Marcus, the golden child, was about to receive the promotion he'd been bragging about for weeks. Growing up, Marcus had always been our parents' pride and joy. While I'd buried myself in business books and studied late into the night, he charmed his way through life with an easy smile and calculated charisma. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. When I got accepted to business school, Marcus told everyone I was hiding in academia, while he was making real moves in the corporate world. When I completed my MBA, he dismissed it as just paper compared to his real-world experience. The elevator dinged at the 45th floor. As I stepped out, memories of last month's family dinner surfaced. Sarah's still playing at being a professor, Marcus had announced, cutting into his steak. While I'm about to become the youngest SVP in Morgan Technologies history. Mom beamed at him. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." Some people, she glanced my way, just aren't cut out for the corporate world. Dad nodded sagely. Academic life suits Sarah. Safe, predictable. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business. I'd said nothing, just smiled and ate my dinner. Let them think what they wanted. They had no idea that while I was hiding in academia, I'd been building something much bigger. Now, walking through the sleek hallways of Morgan Technologies, I felt the weight of the documents in my briefcase. 2 years of careful planning, strategic investments, and quiet negotiations had led to this moment. The boardroom doors loomed ahead. Through the glass, I could see Marcus holding court, his perfectly tailored suit and practiced smile radiating confidence. Our parents sat in the front row, practically glowing with pride. Marcus spotted me and frowned, quickly making his way over. "I told you to stay in the back," he hissed. "This is my moment. Don't embarrass me by trying to network or whatever you're planning." "Don't worry," I said quietly. "I'm not here to steal your spotlight." He eyed my simple outfit with disdain. "Good. Just try to look professional at least, and don't mention we're related." As he walked away, I checked my watch. Right on schedule, Miranda Chen, the CEO of Morgan Technologies, would be arriving to make the announcement. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd met with Miranda many times over the past year, but not about his promotion. The room quieted as Miranda strode in, commanding attention without effort. She took her place at the podium, shuffling her notes with practiced precision. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "thank you for joining us today. We're here to announce some significant changes at Morgan Technologies." Marcus straightened his tie, ready for his moment. "But before we discuss any promotions," Miranda continued, "I have an important announcement. As many of you know, I've been searching for the right person to take Morgan Technologies into the future. Someone with vision, integrity, and a deep understanding of where this industry is heading." She paused, scanning the room. Marcus's smile widened. That search led me to someone who impressed me not just with their business acumen, but with their innovative approach to technology and leadership. Someone who quietly built an investment portfolio that includes controlling interests in 3 of our major competitors. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't part of his script. Over the past year, this person has been systematically acquiring shares in Morgan Technologies through various investment vehicles. As of this morning, they've succeeded in purchasing a controlling interest in our company. The room broke into confused murmurs. Marcus's face had gone pale. "Ladies and gentlemen," Miranda said, "please join me in welcoming the new owner and CEO of Morgan Technologies." She turned and extended her hand toward me. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. The silence was absolute as I walked to the podium. Marcus stumbled backward, his carefully planned speech falling from nerveless fingers. In the front row, our parents sat frozen, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Thank you, Miranda," I said, taking my place at the podium. The documents in my briefcase would wait. Right now, I had a company to address, and a lifetime of underestimation to correct. The boardroom remained frozen in shocked silence as I stood at the podium. Miranda Chen stepped aside, a slight smile playing at her lips. She had kept our secret well, understanding exactly why this moment needed to happen exactly this way. "Before we continue," I said, my voice steady, "I believe congratulations are in order. Marcus, would you join me up here?" My brother's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. He stood rooted to his spot, designer suit suddenly seeming too tight at the collar. Our parents remained motionless in their front row seats, Mother's perfectly manicured hands gripping her purse so tightly our knuckles had gone white. "Marcus," I repeated, letting authority fill my voice. "Please." He moved woodenly toward the podium, each step looking like it physically pained him. The whispers had started now, rippling through the crowd as people connected the dots between our shared last name. "As you all know," I continued, "Marcus was to be announced as your new Senior Vice President of Operations today." I paused, letting the tension build. That announcement will still be going forward, though with some adjustments. Marcus's head snapped up, hope and confusion warring on his face. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to review everyone's performance records, including Marcus's. While his sales numbers are impressive, there have been some concerning patterns in his management style and strategic decisions. I opened my briefcase and removed a folder, watching Marcus's eyes track my movements. Specifically, the Harrison account proposal from last quarter. I held up a document, the one where you took credit for Jennifer Torres's work while she was on maternity leave. The color drained from Marcus's face. In the audience, a young woman in a charcoal suit sat straighter. "Or the Stevens Technology merger," I continued, extracting another file, "where you conveniently failed to mention the massive pension liability that would come with the acquisition, the liability you discovered during due diligence but chose to hide." That's taken out of context," Marcus stammered, finding his voice. "You don't understand how business works in the real world. Sometimes you have to make morally questionable decisions to get ahead." I finished for him. "Steal credit from your subordinates, hide critical information from the board." Our father stood up suddenly. "Now see here," he blustered, his face reddening. "You can't just walk in here and start making accusations. Marcus has worked his way up through a combination of charm, manipulation, and taking credit for others' work." I cut in. "Yes, I know exactly how he's worked his way up. I've spent the last year reviewing every decision, every proposal, every partnership he's been involved with. I turn to address the room at large. Morgan Technologies has an incredible team of dedicated, innovative professionals. People who work hard, support each other, and operate with integrity. Starting today, those are the people who will be recognized and rewarded. My eyes found Jennifer Torres in the crowd. Ms. Torres, I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning to discuss your actual contributions to the Harrison Project and your thoughts on leading the new digital transformation initiative. Jennifer sat up straighter, a slow smile spreading across her face as Marcus seemed to shrink beside me. This is ridiculous. Our mother's voice cut through the room as she stood, designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Sarah, you've always been jealous of your brother's success. This little power play of yours. Mrs. Mitchell, Miranda interrupted smoothly. Perhaps we should continue this family discussion privately. The board and I have some organizational announcements to make. I nodded. My office, I said, indicating the large corner office that had been prepared over the past week. Now, as our parents and Marcus followed me into the office, I could hear Miranda beginning to outline the company's new direction to the assembled employees. The heavy door clicked shut behind us, muffling the sound. Have you lost your mind? Marcus exploded the moment we were alone. You can't just walk in here and... I can and I did, I replied calmly, taking my seat behind the desk. I own 51% of Morgan Technologies now. Every decision, every promotion, every strategic move goes through me. How? Our father demanded. Where did you get that kind of money? This company is worth billions. I leaned back in my chair. Remember that silly little consulting firm I started during my hiding in academia phase? Turns out there's good money in helping tech companies optimize their operations and identify acquisition targets. I smiled. Very good money, when you do it right. But you live in that tiny apartment, our mother protested. You drive a used car. You shop at department stores. Because I was investing everything into building something bigger, I opened my laptop. Now let's discuss Marcus's new position. New position? Marcus sputtered. I'm supposed to be senior vice president. You were, I agreed. But given the pattern of ethical violations I've uncovered, that's no longer appropriate. I pulled up a document on my screen. Instead, you'll be taking a lateral move to our new Minneapolis office as a regional sales manager. The blood drained from Marcus's face. Minneapolis? Sales manager? You can't do this to me. Minneapolis is lovely this time of year, I said mildly. Though I hear the winters are quite cold, you might want to invest in a good coat. Department stores have some excellent options. Our father slammed his hand on my desk. This is outrageous. We'll fight this. The board won't stand for. The board, I cut in, has already approved all personnel changes. They've known about this transition for weeks. Only the three of you were kept in the dark. I stood up, straightening my simple blazer. You have until the end of the day to clear out your office, Marcus. Your flight to Minneapolis leaves tomorrow morning. First class, of course. I'm not completely heartless. And if I refuse? Marcus challenged, though his voice shook slightly. Then you can explain to potential employers why you were terminated for ethical violations. Your choice. I checked my watch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. As they filed out of my office, shoulders slumped in defeat, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. The simple gray blazer didn't look so plain anymore. It looked exactly like what it was, the outfit of someone who had worked for everything she had, who had earned every step up the ladder. But my day wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because what my family didn't know was that Morgan Technologies was just the beginning. The real changes, the ones that would reshape not just our family dynamic, but the entire industry, were still to come. I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Everything's in place," I said when the line connected. Time for Phase 2. 3 months after taking control of Morgan Technologies, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports. The Minneapolis weather update on my screen showed heavy snow. I wondered if Marcus had bought that winter coat yet. A soft knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called, already knowing who it would be. Jennifer Torres entered, carrying a tablet and looking considerably more confident than she had 3 months ago. As the new head of digital transformation, she'd already implemented changes that had increased efficiency by 30%. "The Stevens technology audit is complete," she reported, taking a seat. "You were right about the pension liability being just the tip of the iceberg. We've uncovered at least a dozen other issues Marcus tried to hide." I nodded, unsurprised. "Send me the full report. And Jennifer? Good work." She smiled, the smile of someone who was finally being recognized for their talents. "There's something else. Your parents are in the lobby." I glanced at my calendar, though I already knew it was empty. "Send them up." While waiting, I opened my desk drawer and removed a thick manila envelope. Inside were documents I'd been preparing for weeks, ever since Phase 2 had begun. My parents entered without knocking. Mom looked thinner, her designer outfit from last season showing signs of wear. Dad's golf tan had faded, and his shoulders stooped slightly. "Sarah," Mom started, her voice carrying forced brightness, "we've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy," I replied coolly. "Running a company takes considerable time. Please sit." They settled into the chairs across from my desk, looking uncomfortable. The silence stretched. "It's about Marcus," Dad finally said. "He's struggling in Minneapolis. His performance reports reflect that." I agreed. "His sales numbers are well below target. He's not used to the cold," Mom interjected quickly. "And that tiny apartment. Nothing like his condo here. Couldn't you find something closer? Maybe a position in the Chicago office?" I leaned back in my chair. "Has Marcus mentioned why his numbers are down?" They exchanged glances. Dad cleared his throat. "He says the clients there are different, more demanding." "They're not different," I said. "They just expect actual results, not empty promises and stolen ideas. Marcus can't coast on charm there because I specifically instructed the regional director to verify all his work." That's harassment," Dad sputtered. "That's accountability," I corrected. "Something Marcus has never had to face before." I opened the manila envelope. "Which brings me to why I've been trying to reach you both as well." Their eyes fixed on the documents I spread across my desk. Property records, bank statements, investment portfolios. When I was reviewing Marcus's financial records, I found some interesting transactions. I continued. "Large transfers from your accounts to his, dating back 5 years. Money that came from mortgaging your house. Twice." Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face paled. "He said it was for investments," Mom whispered. "Special opportunities." "He lost it all," I said quietly. "High-risk trades, failed startups, gambling. The second mortgage payment is due next week. You can't cover it, can you?" Dad's shoulders slumped completely. We We were hoping that I would bail you out, I finished. Like you bailed him out, over and over, while telling me I didn't understand real business. Tears welled in Mom's eyes. Sarah, please. We'll lose the house. I pulled out another document. This is a proposal. Morgan Technologies will purchase your house at market value, clearing both mortgages. You can continue living there, paying rent at 30% below market rate. Their eyes widened with hope. But, I continued, there are conditions. First, you'll both attend financial management counseling. Second, you will not send any more money to Marcus. And third, I met their eyes firmly. You will acknowledge, in writing, how you've treated me all these years. That's blackmail, Dad protested weakly. That's accountability, I repeated. Something this family desperately needs. I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. For years, you dismissed my achievements, belittled my choices, poured all your love and resources into Marcus while treating me like an afterthought. I turned back to face them. That ends now. Mom was crying openly now. Dad stared at his hands. The choice is yours, I said. Sign the agreement, keep your home, and maybe, we can build something new from the ashes of what this family has become. Or don't sign, lose the house, and continue enabling Marcus's destructive behavior. I placed a pen on the desk between them. But understand this, I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because sometimes love means forcing people to face hard truths. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then slowly, Dad reached for the pen. As they signed, my phone buzzed with a text from Minneapolis. Marcus had finally hit rock bottom, admitting to his regional director that he needed help. I'd already arranged for him to enter a program that would address his gambling addiction and teach him actual business ethics. Looking at my parents, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes when they looked at me. Respect. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of understanding. The car will take you home, I said, pressing a button to summon my driver. The counselor will contact you tomorrow to set up your first session. They stood, looking somehow both smaller and lighter than when they'd entered. Sarah. Mom paused at the door. I'm sorry. For everything. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. After they left, I sank back into my chair and finally let out a long breath. Phase 2 was complete. The family that had dismissed me for so long was finally seeing me clearly, not just as a successful businesswoman, but as someone strong enough to help them face their own failures. Jennifer knocked again, entering with a fresh stack of reports. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. They're eager to hear about the new expansion plans. I smiled, gathering my materials. Time to focus on the future, not just of Morgan Technologies, but of all the people who worked here. People like Jennifer, who deserved their chance to shine. As I walked into the boardroom, I caught my reflection in the window. The simple gray blazer was gone, replaced by one I'd chosen for myself. Not designer, not flashy, but perfectly suited to who I was. Someone who had built success on substance rather than style. The board members rose as I entered. They'd learned quickly that I was nothing like my brother, and everything a leader should be. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, let's talk about where we're going next. Because success, real success, isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I was just getting started. The glass elevator at Morgan Technologies rose smoothly through the gleaming tower, each floor marking another step toward a moment I'd planned for 2 years. I adjusted my simple gray blazer, purchased from a department store, nothing like the designer suits surrounding me. The foreclosure notice lay crumpled on my parents' kitchen table, its red letters stark against the white paper. Mom paced the worn linoleum floor while Dad sat with his head in his hands, the weight of their financial troubles evident in the slope of his shoulders. $20,000, Mom repeated, her voice cracking. Where are we supposed to find that kind of money in 2 weeks? I took a deep breath, smoothing out the notice. I can help. They both turned to look at me, surprise and something else. Was it shame? Crossing their faces. At 32, I'd built a successful software consulting business, though they'd never shown much interest in understanding exactly what I did. Emma, Dad started. We can't ask you to. You're not asking. I interrupted. I'm offering. The kitchen was silent except for the steady drip of the leaking faucet, a repair that, like so many others, had been postponed due to lack of funds. The house I'd grown up in was showing its age. Peeling wallpaper, creaking floors, a roof that desperately needed replacing. What about your brother? Mom asked. Andrew should help too. He's the successful one. The familiar sting of comparison hit me. Andrew, the golden child who worked on Wall Street and drove expensive cars, but somehow never had money to help the family. Andrew, who could do no wrong even when he did nothing at all. Andrew's not here, I said quietly. I am. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed them the transfer I'd already prepared. $20,000, ready to move with a single tap. Mom's eyes widened. How do you have that kind of money? I told you my business was doing well. Though they'd never asked for details, never shown interest in my growing success. I can transfer it right now. Dad straightened in his chair. We'll pay you back, of course. No need, I said, tapping the transfer button. Consider it a gift. The notification chimed, confirming the transaction. $20,000, more than they'd ever believed I could earn, let alone save. Moving from my account to theirs. I don't know what to say, Mom whispered, tears in her eyes. Just promise me something, I said, standing up. Promise you'll stop comparing me to Andrew. Stop acting like I'm somehow less successful just because I chose a different path. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd made a mistake. Mom's face hardened, the gratitude vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. How dare you? She snapped. After everything we've done for you, you use this to try to make us feel guilty. That's not what your brother would never throw his success in our faces like this. I stared at her, disbelief mixing with a lifetime of hurt. I just gave you $20,000 to save your house. And now, you're using it against us. Mom's voice rose, just like you've always been jealous of your brother's success. Margaret, Dad said weakly, but she was too far gone. Get out, she screamed, pointing at the door. Get out and never come back. We don't need your money or your judgment. I stood frozen, the reality of what was happening slowly sinking in. I'd just given them enough money to save their home, and instead of gratitude, I was getting thrown out. Mom, please. Out. She grabbed my arm, pushing me toward the door. And take your money with you. We'll find another way. The transfer's already done, I said quietly, letting her push me onto the front porch. The mortgage is due in 2 weeks. Don't let your pride cost you your home. The door slammed behind me with enough force to rattle the windows. I stood there for a moment, listening to Mom's muffled sobs and Dad's attempts to calm her down. My phone buzzed. A text from Andrew. Heard Mom and Dad are having money troubles. You should help them out since you live closer." I laughed bitterly, walking to my car. Of course he'd heard. He always heard about problems, but never actually helped solve them. Another text came through as I started the engine. "BTW, can you spot me 5? Investment opportunity came up." I turned off my phone without responding and pulled away from the house I'd grown up in, the house I'd just saved, the house I'd apparently never be welcome in again. But what my parents didn't know, what no one in the family knew, was that their mortgage wasn't the only financial situation I was intimately familiar with. I'd been watching, learning, gathering information about the house, about Dad's failed business ventures, about Andrew's investment opportunities that always seemed to need family funding. And I'd been planning. Because sometimes being the forgotten child, the one no one pays attention to, means you see everything. And sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage of all. I drove home to my quiet apartment, opened my laptop, and began typing an email to my lawyer. Phase 1 was complete, though not quite as I'd planned. Now it was time for Phase 2, and this time, I wouldn't be the one begging to come back. 2 weeks passed. My phone remained silent. No calls from Mom, no texts from Dad, not even an acknowledgement that my money had saved their home. The only family member who kept in touch was Andrew, sending increasingly desperate requests for loans. I sat in my home office, surrounded by monitors displaying financial data, when Diana from my bank called. "Ms. Walker, there's been another attempt to access your accounts. Your brother again." I smiled grimly. "Let me guess. He tried to use Mom's maiden name as verification. And your childhood pet's name. Should I flag his attempts as fraudulent?" "Not yet." I leaned back in my chair. "Let's see how far he's willing to go." After hanging up, I pulled up the document I'd been working on. A detailed spreadsheet tracking every loan Andrew had taken from family members over the past 5 years. The total was staggering. Over $300,000 borrowed and never repaid. My intercom buzzed. "Your 2 p.m. is here," my assistant announced. Right on time, James Parker from the SEC walked into my office. He'd been surprisingly interested when I'd reached out about investigating certain investment schemes. "Ms. Walker," he said, setting his briefcase on my desk. "I've reviewed the documentation you sent. It's comprehensive." I nodded. 10 years of watching my brother scam family members tends to produce a lot of evidence. "This goes beyond family," James replied, opening his briefcase. "Your brother's been running an unauthorized investment operation, taking money from multiple sources, promising impossible returns. A Ponzi scheme," I finished. "I know. I've been tracking it for years." He looked up sharply. "Years? Why wait until now to come forward?" I turned my monitor so he could see the latest email from Andrew. "Emma, seriously need 50 by tomorrow. Huge opportunity. We'll pay back double in a month. Don't tell Mom and Dad. Because sometimes you have to wait for people to reveal who they really are." James studied the email. "Your parents, they're victims in this too." "They're his biggest enablers," I corrected. "They've remortgaged their house 3 times to give him money. The $20,000 I paid 2 weeks ago, that was to save them from foreclosure after his last sure-thing investment failed. And they don't know you're the one who reported him. They don't know anything about me," I said quietly. "They never have." My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Monthly mortgage payment due next week. Assuming you're handling it, since you offered to help." I showed it to James. "See? They threw me out 2 weeks ago, told me never to come back. Now they just expect me to keep paying. He shook his head. We'll need statements from other victims. Family members who lost money. Already compiled. I handed him a thick folder. Statements, bank records, text messages. Aunt Sarah lost her retirement fund. Uncle Pete had to sell his business. Cousin Michael's kids can't go to college. And they're all willing to testify. They will be. Once they understand what really happened to their money. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Andrew needs help with an investment. If you can't support your brother, at least send the mortgage payment. James raised an eyebrow at the message. Perfect timing, I said. Ready to move forward? He nodded, pulling out official-looking documents. We can execute the warrants tomorrow morning. No, I replied, checking my calendar. Next week, Tuesday. Why the delay? Because Monday is the monthly family dinner. The one where Andrew always announces his latest investment opportunity and collects more money. I smiled slightly. I want him to have one last chance to show exactly who he is. After James left, I sat staring at my parents' texts. They hadn't bothered to ask how I was doing after throwing me out. Hadn't acknowledged the money I'd given them. Just demanded more, always more, to feed Andrew's endless schemes. My laptop pinged with an alert. Andrew had just booked a first-class flight to the Cayman Islands for next Wednesday. Right on schedule. I picked up my phone and typed a response to Mom. I'll be at dinner on Monday. Her reply came instantly. Good. Bring your checkbook. Your brother has an amazing opportunity to share. I forwarded the exchange to James, adding surveillance team confirmed for Monday. All set, he replied. Recording devices will catch everything. I started typing an email to all the family members Andrew had scammed, scheduling it to send Tuesday morning. I know what happened to your money. Come to my office at 2 p.m. if you want the full truth. A final text came through from Andrew. Hey sis, got something big to discuss Monday. Bring that business brain of yours. And maybe a blank check? Looking forward to it, I replied. Because I really was. I'd spent years being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one they only noticed when they needed money. Years watching Andrew drain our family's resources while being praised as the successful son. Well, success comes in many forms, and sometimes it looks like finally exposing the truth. I opened my safe and removed the final piece of evidence. A recorded conversation from 5 years ago where Andrew admitted he was running a Ponzi scheme. I'd kept it all this time, waiting for the right moment. That moment was coming. Monday's family dinner would be one to remember, and Tuesday would change everything. I just hoped my parents would finally see the truth about their golden child before they lost everything trying to protect him. But even if they didn't, even if they never forgave me for what I was about to do, I knew it was the right thing. Because sometimes love means stopping people from destroying themselves, even if they hate you for it. Monday evening arrived with a sense of inevitability. I parked outside my parents' house, noting the new luxury car in the driveway, Andrew's latest purchase with other people's money. The SEC surveillance van was discreetly positioned down the street, disguised as a utility vehicle. I checked my watch. 6:45 p.m. In less than 24 hours, everything would change. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Emma, finally. She hugged me as if she hadn't thrown me out 2 weeks ago. Andrew's got such exciting news. The house smelled of pot roast. Mom's specialty, always served when Andrew had a new investment opportunity to discuss. The familiar scent now carried a bitter edge. Dad sat in his usual chair, looking tired but hopeful. Andrew held court in the living room, dressed in an expensive suit that probably cost more than our parents' monthly mortgage. "Little sister," he grinned, showing too many teeth. "Glad you could make it. Brought your checkbook." "Always prepared," I replied, patting my bag. Inside was indeed a checkbook, along with a hidden recording device synced to the SEC team. "That's my girl," Dad said proudly, as if he hadn't sat silently while Mom kicked me out. Always a responsible one. Dinner was a performance of normalcy. Mom served her pot roast, making sure Andrew got the biggest portion. Dad asked about everyone's week, though he only really listened to Andrew's answers. I pushed food around my plate, watching the scene unfold like a play I'd seen too many times. Finally, Andrew cleared his throat. "So, family, I've got something amazing to share. Here we go. I've discovered an investment opportunity that's going to change everything," he continued, eyes bright with rehearsed enthusiasm. "Guaranteed returns of 40% in 3 months." "That's wonderful, honey," Mom beamed. "Sounds impressive," I said carefully. "How does it work?" Andrew launched into his pitch, the same one he'd used countless times, just with different numbers. Exclusive access, limited time offer, too complex to explain fully, but too good to pass up. "I just need some capital to secure our position," he finished. "Say, 50,000? I know it's a lot, but the returns. We can remortgage again," Dad offered immediately. "Actually," I interrupted, "I have some questions first." Andrew's smile flickered. "Come on, sis. You know I wouldn't steer our family wrong. Like you didn't steer Aunt Sarah wrong, or Uncle Pete, or Cousin Michael." The room went silent. "What are you talking about?" Mom demanded. I pulled out my folder. "I'm talking about the $300,000 Andrew has borrowed from family members over the past 5 years. Money that was never repaid. Money that was lost in guaranteed investments." "That's different," Andrew protested. "Those deals just needed more time. Like this deal." I slid a printout across the table. "The one where you've already booked a flight to the Cayman Islands for Wednesday." His face went pale. "Emma?" Mom snapped. "How dare you accuse your brother? It's not an accusation." I stood up, addressing the hidden microphones as much as my family. "It's evidence. Evidence of a Ponzi scheme that's been draining this family dry for years." "What evidence?" Dad asked, his voice barely a whisper. I played the recording from 5 years ago, Andrew's voice clear and damning. "Of course, it's a Ponzi scheme. These people are too stupid to realize. Take their money, show them fake returns, use new investments to pay old investors. It's beautiful." Mom's hands flew to her mouth. Dad seemed to age 10 years in 10 seconds. "You recorded me?" Andrew snarled, lunging for my phone. The front door burst open. James Parker led a team of SEC agents into the room, badges displayed. "Andrew Walker," James announced, "you're under arrest for operating a fraudulent investment scheme, wire fraud, and multiple counts of financial elder abuse." "No," Mom screamed, trying to block the agents. "There must be some mistake. The only mistake," I said quietly, "was enabling him for so long, watching him destroy this family while pretending everything was fine." As the agents led Andrew away in handcuffs, Dad turned to me with tears in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Would you have believed me over him? I gestured at the house around us. Every mortgage, every loan, every time you gave him money. I tried to warn you, but you never listened. We listened. Mom protested weakly. No, you ordered, asked, demanded, but you never listened. I picked up my bag. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'm meeting with everyone Andrew scammed. You're welcome to join us. Learn exactly what your golden child has done. Emma, please. Dad reached for my hand. We need you. No, I said softly. You needed me 2 weeks ago when I gave you $20,000. You needed me every time I tried to warn you about Andrew. Now you need to face the truth. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. I'll keep paying the mortgage. Not for you, but because this house shouldn't pay for Andrew's crimes. But don't expect anything else until you understand what real success looks like. The next day, my office filled with shell-shocked family members learning the full scope of Andrew's schemes. Aunt Sarah wept over her lost retirement. Uncle Pete raged about his sold business. Cousin Michael mourned his children's college funds. My parents sat in the back, silent for the first time I could remember. When the meeting ended, Mom approached my desk. We were wrong, she said simply. About what? Everything. She placed a set of keys on my desk. My old house keys. The ones I'd given back 2 weeks ago. Come home. I picked up the keys, then held them out to her. I am home. In the life I built while you were busy praising Andrew's lies. We can change, Dad said from behind her. Then prove it. I handed them a folder. Inside is a repayment plan for everyone Andrew scammed. Start there. Show me you understand the difference between flash and substance. They left with the folder, shoulders bent under the weight of truth. 3 months later, they'd stuck to the repayment plan, started attending financial responsibility classes, and finally started seeing me, really seeing me. Andrew pled guilty, facing years in prison. The family members he'd scammed would eventually recover some of their money through asset seizure and my parents' repayment plan. And me? I kept my promise, paid the mortgage, maintained the house, proved that success isn't about big promises and flashy schemes. Sometimes it's about quiet strength, about doing what's right even when it hurts. Sometimes it's about being the child they didn't want until they needed exactly who you were all along. Mom and Dad visit my office now, actually asking about my business, finally understanding that real success isn't measured in fast returns and empty promises. And that house they almost lost, they've put it up for sale, downsizing to something they can afford without depending on anyone else. They're learning, growing, changing, and so am I. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in finally proving yourself right, even if it takes losing everything to find it. The foreclosure notice lay crumpled on my parents' kitchen table, its red letters stark against the white paper. Mom paced the worn linoleum floor while Dad sat with his head in his hands, the weight of their financial troubles evident in the slope of his shoulders. $20,000, Mom repeated, her voice cracking. Where are we supposed to find that kind of money in 2 weeks? I took a deep breath, smoothing out the notice. I can help. They both turned to look at me, surprise and something else. Was it shame? Crossing their faces. At 32, I'd built a successful software consulting business, though they'd never shown much interest in understanding exactly what I did. Emma, Dad started. We can't ask you to. You're not asking. I interrupted. I'm offering. The kitchen was silent except for the steady drip of the leaking faucet. A repair that like so many others, had been postponed due to lack of funds. The house I'd grown up in was showing its age. Peeling wallpaper, creaking floors, a roof that desperately needed replacing. "What about your brother?" Mom asked. "Andrew should help too. He's the successful one." The Plaza Hotel glittered like a fairy tale, crystal chandeliers casting golden light across marble floors. I adjusted my emerald silk dress, purchased specifically for today, my sister Olivia's wedding, and checked my reflection in a gilded mirror. The doorman had given me an odd look when I arrived, as if questioning whether I belonged in such an opulent setting. If he only knew. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Where are you?" "The ceremony starts in an hour." I took a deep breath and headed toward the grand ballroom, the gift in my hand. A small, wrapped box felt heavier than its actual weight. Inside was a key, but not just any key. The key to everything Olivia had ever wanted. Growing up, Olivia had always been the star, the perfect daughter, the stunning beauty, the social butterfly. While I buried myself in financial reports and business plans, she floated through life on charm and looks. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would ask. "Olivia never has trouble making friends." Now, at 28, Olivia was marrying Bradley Thompson IEV, heir to the Thompson Hotel Group. The wedding was splashed across every society page in the city. The perfect couple, they called them. The merger of old money and new beauty. If they only knew. The bridal suite door was cracked open as I approached. Inside, I could hear Olivia's voice, sharp with command. "No, no, no. The flowers are all wrong. Do you know how much we're paying for this?" "Fix it." I knocked softly. The door swung open to reveal my mother, her face tight with stress despite perfect makeup. "Finally," she said, looking me over critically. "At least you dressed appropriately this time." "Catherine," Olivia's voice rang out. "You're late. I need you to run down and check on the place cards. Make sure they're done right." I bit back a response. Even on her wedding day, Olivia was giving orders. But I had long practice at keeping my thoughts to myself. The ballroom was a vision in white and gold, flowers cascading from every surface. I approached the welcome table where the place cards were arranged in perfect rows. The calligraphy was flawless, each name written in golden ink. I found my card near the back and froze. Instead of a table number, mine read, "Hallway seating, service entrance." "Oh good, you found it." I turned to see Olivia standing behind me, resplendent in her designer wedding gown. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "There wasn't room at the family tables," she said sweetly. "You understand, don't you? We had to seat all of Bradley's important connections first. There's a nice chair set up by the service entrance. You'll still be able to hear everything." The carefully maintained mask I'd worn for months cracked slightly. "By the trash cans, Olivia?" "Really?" She shrugged, adjusting her veil. "Guess you don't count as much as real family. Besides, it's not like you contributed anything to this wedding." If she only knew how wrong she was about everything. I looked down at the small gift in my hands. Inside was the key that would unlock the truth about her precious Bradley, about the Thompson Hotel Group, about everything she thought she was marrying into. I had spent the last year working silently, systematically, uncovering every secret, every lie, every hidden debt. The Thompson empire was crumbling, and Bradley knew it. He needed this marriage, needed the connections and social status Olivia would bring to save his family's failing business. What he didn't know was that I had already bought most of their debt through a series of shell companies. What no one knew was that while they were planning this lavish wedding, I was planning something else entirely. I had intended to wait until after the ceremony, to do this quietly, privately. But standing there, holding my hallway seat assignment, something shifted inside me. "You're right," I said, my voice steady. "I don't count as real family. I never have." Olivia's smile widened. "Exactly. So you'll be fine by the service entrance." I picked up my place card, tore it in half, and dropped it on the floor. "No, I won't. Excuse me." "I'm leaving," I said, turning toward the door, "and I'm taking my gift with me." "Whatever," Olivia called after me. "It's not like you could afford anything worth having anyway." I paused at the doorway, looking back one last time. "You might want to check Bradley's phone, particularly his messages with someone named Diana at Goldman Sachs. They're very illuminating." Olivia's face went blank. "What are you talking about?" "Ask him about the leveraged buyout and the hidden debts, and why the SEC is investigating his father." The color drained from her face. "How do you? That's not." I smiled, a real smile this time. "Goodbye, Olivia. Enjoy your wedding, while you can." As I walked away, I could hear her heels clicking rapidly across the marble floor, no doubt rushing to find Bradley. In about 10 minutes, she would discover that his phone was locked, and he wasn't answering her calls. In 20 minutes, she would learn that Diana from Goldman Sachs had just sent an email to the entire Thomson board, detailing every fraudulent transaction she'd uncovered. And in 30 minutes, she would realize that her perfect wedding was about to become something else entirely. I stepped out into the sunlight, pulling out my phone. Time to set everything in motion. "Execute Plan B," I texted to my team. "And make sure the SEC gets those files within the hour." The response came immediately. "Already done. Thomson stock is starting to fall." I slipped into my waiting car, finally allowing myself to relax. The doorman who had questioned my belonging was now holding the door with careful deference. Word traveled fast in certain circles. As we pulled away from the plaza, I could hear sirens in the distance. Right on schedule. The real wedding gift was about to be delivered, and it wasn't the key in the small box I still held. It was the key to understanding that actions have consequences, that appearances aren't everything, and that sometimes the person you dismissed might just be the person who brings your whole world crashing down. My phone buzzed again. A message from Diana. "SEC agents just entered the plaza. Should I activate the final protocol?" I smiled, thinking of Olivia's face when she realized what was really happening. "Yes," I typed back. It's time everyone knew the truth. The car turned onto Park Avenue as behind us. The perfect wedding dissolved into perfect chaos. My car had barely reached Madison Avenue when the calls started flooding in. First Mom, then Dad, then a stream of family members I hadn't heard from in years. I silenced them all, watching the city blur past my window as centuries of carefully maintained appearances crumbled behind me. "Turn on CNBC," Diana texted. I pressed a button, lowering the partition screen in the car. The financial news channel sprang to life, and there it was. Breaking news scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Thomson Hotel GROU under federal investigation. CEO ARRESTED on FRAUDCJRGE. My phone buzzed again. Olivia this time, her text almost incoherent with rage. "What did you do?" I could picture the scene unfolding at the plaza. SEC agents in dark suits moving through the crowd of bewildered wedding guests. Bradley being led away in handcuffs, his father already in custody in the hotel lobby. Olivia, still in her perfect white dress, watching her perfect day shatter like a crystal glass, dropped on marble. "Miss Harrison?" My driver's voice cut through my thoughts. "We're here." I looked up at the gleaming office tower that housed Harrison Global Investments, my company, though few people knew that. I'd built it quietly over the past 5 years, hidden behind layers of holding companies and proxy directors. Diana was waiting in the lobby, tablet in hand. Her sharp suit and precise movements reflected none of the chaos we just unleashed. "The Thompson stock is in free fall," she reported as we stepped into the elevator. "Down 60% and still dropping. Our positions are exactly where we want them." I nodded. "And the evidence packets?" "Being delivered to every major news outlet right now. The full story will break within the hour." She paused. "Your family's reputation won't survive this unscathed." "They sacrificed that reputation themselves," I said quietly. "They just don't know it yet." My office occupied the top floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. I deliberately kept the space minimal. No family photos, no personal touches, nothing to suggest who really ran one of the city's most powerful investment firms. "Pull up the security feed," I instructed Diana. Multiple screens lit up, showing different angles of the Plaza Hotel. The chaos was spreading. Police cars lined the street. Reporters were arriving in waves, their cameras flashing like strobe lights. And there, in the middle of it all, was my sister. Olivia's perfect composure had cracked. Her veil was askew, mascara tracking down her cheeks as she screamed at anyone who would listen. Mom stood beside her, face ashen, while Dad argued with what appeared to be federal agents. "Your sister's trying to call again," Diana noted. "This time," I answered. "How could you?" Olivia's voice was shrill, hysterical. "Wow, you've ruined everything." "No, Olivia," I replied calmly. "I just exposed the truth. Bradley's family has been running a Ponzi scheme through their hotels for years. They were using your wedding, your connections, to bring in new investors before everything collapsed. You're lying. Bradley loves me. Bradley loves your social status and your father's contact list. Check your phone. I just sent you proof. Every fraudulent transaction, every hidden account, every lie, he told you." There was a long pause as she presumably looked at the documents. "But how did you?" Her voice had lost its edge, reality finally starting to sink in. "Remember when you told me I'd never amount to anything? That I was wasting my time with investments and financial analysis while you were building the perfect life?" I allowed myself a small smile. It turns out all that boring work gave me exactly what I needed to see through Bradley's facade. "The SEC," she whispered. "That was you. I've owned most of Thompson's debt for months. I knew everything, Olivia. Every scheme, every fraud, every secret meeting Bradley had with his mistress while planning your wedding." "Mistress?" Her voice cracked. "Diana isn't just from Goldman Sachs. She's been working for me, gathering evidence, recording every conversation, including the ones where Bradley laughed about how your wedding would save his family's empire." A choked sob came through the phone. "Why?" she managed finally. "Why today? Why not tell me before? Would you have believed me? Or would you have run straight to Bradley, warning him, letting him hide the evidence?" I paused. "And as for why today, well, you made it clear I didn't count his family. so I stopped acting like family. Through the security feed, I watched my sister crumple onto a gilt chair, her perfect wedding dress pooling around her like broken dreams. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now, the Thompson empire falls. Bradley and his father go to prison, and you get to experience what it feels like to be the one nobody wants to associate with." "You've destroyed us," she said, but the fight had gone out of her voice. "No, Olivia, you destroyed yourselves. I just decided to stop protecting you from the consequences." I ended the call, turning to Diana. "Start the next phase." She nodded, fingers flying over her tablet. Within minutes, news alerts began popping up on my screens. Harrison Global Investments announcing the acquisition of key Thompson properties at fire sale prices. Our company stepping in to stabilize the situation and protect jobs. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. His message was different from the others. "We need to talk. I know what you've built." I stared at the message for a long moment. Of course he knew. Dad hadn't built his own business empire by being stupid. He must have figured it out. Perhaps even suspected what was coming. "Diana," I said quietly, "get me everything we have on Harrison Industries." She looked up, startled. "Your father's company?" But that wasn't part of the plan. Plans change. I turned to look out over the city. It's time for phase 2. Because destroying Bradley Thompson wasn't the end game. It was just the beginning. And my family was about to learn that the daughter they dismissed had become something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. A woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The sun had set over Manhattan by the time my father arrived at Harrison Global's offices. The city lights sparkled below like scattered diamonds, a fitting backdrop for what was about to unfold. "Impressive," he said, stepping into my office. His bow tie was undone, hanging loose around his neck, the only sign that today's events had affected him. "Though you might have chosen a less dramatic way to reveal yourself." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Would you have listened to any other approach?" He sat, his movements measured. This was Thomas Harrison, the titan of industry, not the father who had overlooked me for decades. "How long have you been planning this?" "Which part?" I turned my monitor so he could see the financial data scrolling across it. "Taking down the Thompsons? Building Harrison Global? Or proving that your least favorite daughter might actually understand business?" "Catherine." His voice carried a warning note, the same tone he'd used when I was young and dared to challenge him. It didn't work anymore. 5 years, I said, since the day you told me I didn't have what it takes to run Harrison Industries. Remember? Business requires instinct, Catherine, not just books and spreadsheets. He had the grace to wince. "I was trying to protect you." "No," I corrected. "You were protecting Olivia." Everything was always about protecting Olivia. Her feelings, her future, her fantasies about marrying into the perfect family. Diana appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. "The final numbers are in. Thompson Hotel Group has filed for bankruptcy. Our acquisition of their prime properties is proceeding as planned." "Thank you, Diana." I watched my father's face as the implications sank in. "Oh, and could you pull up the Harrison Industries portfolio analysis?" His head snapped up. "What?" Diana's fingers moved across her tablet, and new data filled my screens. Harrison Industries' complete financial history. Every transaction, every acquisition, every hidden deal. "You didn't think I was only investigating the Thompsons, did you?" I kept my voice gentle. "I learned from you, Dad. Always look at the bigger picture." "Catherine," he started, but I held up my hand. 3 years ago, you started moving assets into offshore accounts. 2 years ago, you began liquidating major holdings through shell companies. Last year, you accelerated both processes. I met his eyes. You're in trouble. The mask of corporate confidence cracked slightly. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Harrison Industries is overleveraged. The market shift you bet against happened anyway. Now you're hemorrhaging cash and looking for a way out. I leaned forward. That's why you pushed so hard for Olivia to marry Bradley. You needed the Thompson connection to prop up your empire. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. How did you find out? The same way I built this company, by paying attention to details everyone else ignored. I pressed a button on my desk, and more data filled the screens. Would you like to see what else I know? His shoulders slumped slightly. What do you want? Sit down, Dad. I waited until he did. I'm offering you a choice. Diana handed him a folder containing 2 documents. He opened it slowly, reading with the careful attention that had made him successful. A merger? He looked up sharply. You want to acquire Harrison Industries. Option 1. Harrison Global acquires your company at fair market value. You retain a position on the board, your employees keep their jobs, and the Harrison name stays intact. I paused. Option 2. I release everything I found to the SEC, and you face the same fate as Bradley Thompson's father. You wouldn't. I just destroyed my sister's wedding and had her fiancé arrested. Do you really want to test me? He stared at the documents for a long moment. And your mother, Olivia, will be taken care of. The merger agreement includes provisions for both of them. I softened my tone slightly. I'm not cruel, Dad. I just wanted you to see me. Really see me. I see you now, he said quietly. God help me, I see you. He picked up the pen Diana had placed before him, then paused. The timing of all this, Bradley, the wedding, this offer, you planned it this way, didn't you? I smiled. Like you said, business requires instinct. He signed. As Diana whisked the papers away for processing, my father remained seated, looking somehow both older and more alert than I'd ever seen him. What happens now? He asked. Now, you go home to Mom. Help her understand that her world hasn't ended, it's just changed. Help Olivia realize that there's more to life than appearances. I stood. And tomorrow you come back here, and we begin the process of saving everything you built. And you. For the first time, there was genuine curiosity in his voice. What do you get out of this? Besides control of one of the largest private investment firms in the city? I walked to the window, looking out at the empire I'd built while everyone was watching Olivia. I get the satisfaction of knowing that the daughter you underestimated now holds the key to your survival. He joined me at the window. I was wrong about you. Yes, I agreed. You were. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Harrison Global announces acquisition of Harrison Industries. Markets respond positively. One last thing, I said as he turned to leave. That chair by the trash cans at Olivia's wedding? It wasn't just an insult. It was the final test. If she had shown even a moment of kindness, of real sisterly feeling. I shrugged. This might have played out very differently. He nodded slowly. She failed the test. They all did. Every time. I sat back behind my desk. Good night, Dad. I'll see you at tomorrow's board meeting. After he left, Diana returned with a stack of papers requiring my attention. The merger would keep us busy for months, but that was fine. I had always preferred working to socializing anyway. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Olivia. I'm sorry. For everything. Too little, too late. But maybe, just maybe, some good would come from all this. Maybe my sister would learn what I had known all along. That true worth isn't found in perfect weddings or social connections, but in what you build with your own hands and mind. I turned back to my work, the city lights twinkling below like stars. The daughter they hadn't wanted at the wedding now owned their future. The sister they had seated by the trash now controlled their fate. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I had only just begun to show what I could do. Diana cleared her throat softly. The press is requesting statements about the merger. And your mother has been calling the office. I smiled, picking up the small gift box I'd intended to give at the wedding. Inside, the key gleamed in the evening light. No longer needed, but a perfect reminder of how far I'd come. Tell them, I said, that Harrison Global is just getting started. The city stretched out before me, full of possibilities. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served from the top floor of the building you bought, while no one was looking. And sometimes the sister they didn't want at the wedding becomes the woman they can't afford to ignore.